In the heart of Europe, a silent power shift is unfolding. Italy just passed a sweeping law restricting protests, tightening the leash on public dissent, while a national referendum meant to protect workers and immigrants was quietly buried under low voter turnout. And at the center of it all, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni playing the long game, reshaping Italian democracy one law, one silence at a time. Is this about national security or silencing resistance? Here with me today to discuss this topic is Mimma Manfo, an Italian residing in Naples, Italy, who witnessed all of this firsthand. Welcome to Just with Sherry, where we don't just read the headlines, we read between the lines. Italy just passed a new law that criminalizes certain aspects of protests and expands the power of the police. There have been a lot of reactions to this new law by members of the opposition and by citizens alike. For those of you that may wonder, well, I don't live in Italy, so why should I care? I would like to remind you that Italy is a part of the EU, a part of NATO, a part of the G7, and a very strong ally to the United States of America. If such a law can be passed in Italy, we should all be concerned. It definitely caught my attention. So my first question to my guests, being that you live in Italy and you have witnessed all of this firsthand, please walk us through what exactly is in this law and why it has raised so many red flags.
Okay, the issue has been that, there have been a lot of protests because of the government that we have at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is a government of far right.
Okay.
And, the people that usually go against government of far right are like university students, workers, these kind of categories that protest a lot.
Yeah.
So what the government did against all these protests that have been going on was putting like a lot of police and military on to fight against them.
Mm-hmm.
And to make them criminalized. Like they said, you cannot occupy universities, you cannot occupy like public places, because, occupation has always been part of protests. Like even in high school, when they want to protest, they were like occupying schools. But it's not like they were destroying schools, just like, like a way of protesting. You are occupying schools to show the government that you care about what is happening. And for now, everything that has been done by the law has not been really practiced, because they know that if they really activate it, it's going to go, a lot of people are going to go against it. Like they are using it as a way of scaring people from protesting. In my opinion, it's a way of making them to be scared of protesting against them. But at the end of the day, they're not really like suppressing it like how they do like in Polonia or in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, it's just a very light version of what is happening in that countries. But I don't think they're going to go more further than that.
But isn't it scary that a bill like that could even pass? I think that's what really got my attention, because it was my understanding that the opposition, which I believe was, I'm not quite sure how many parties there were in that, voted against it.
Yes, but the issue is that they have the majority in the government.
Mm-hmm.
They have a high majority in the government. And that is why all the laws they try to pass, they pass.
Mm-hmm.
Because them having the majority, they're always going to pass what they want to pass. In fact, it happened that recently a law it was taken to the parliament, una munizione was taken to the parliament to create programs to invite people to come and do research in Italy, and the government was against it. So everybody knew it was not going to pass because the government was against it. They had a wrong memorandum and they voted yes for it. And the law passed with like only 2 against it and 1 person that didn't vote. That makes you understand the power the government, people that are in the parliament and government party has. They're the majority. So if they want to pass something, they're going to pass it. But at the end of the day, are they really going to apply it? Not really.
So my understanding is that it's more so a law that was passed in order to scare people from protesting,
Yes.
but that they don't really intend to implement. But my fear with that is, why would you want to scare people from protesting? Protesting is a part of democracy, and it's a part of the rights of the citizens. So like, it's a way that people express dissent to something that's going on in the country or in the government. It's a mode of expression for citizens of a country. So like,
yes, but a country full of protest means it's a country that the people don't, is a government full of people protesting against it, means it's a government that the people don't want. So they don't like that they have protests against them. So that is why they're trying to make people not to protest, because people outside Italy seeing all these protests are like, oh, means that the government, people don't like the government, means that the government is not good. Because if the government is bad, they're going to have a lot of protests. So that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to reduce the protests to give an image outside that of a government that is functioning, that is going, that is powerful.
And let me ask you, in your opinion, how would you say the government is performing? I know this is Giorgia Meloni's government, and I personally, I have mixed feelings. I think there's certain things that she's doing okay, and certain things that she's not really doing great. But again, you live there, so I would like to hear from you.
Okay. In my opinion, there's been a lot of propaganda in this government that is typical of the right wing in Italy. Right wing in Italy is quite a populist party, and they like propaganda. Like when they opened the immigrant center in Albania, it was it was a huge waste of money. Like they brought like 10 people, something like this, a very small number of people, and more than half have to go back because they shouldn't have been there. Like some of them were underage, some of them were in the process of receiving documents. So you created and they spent millions and millions of hard-earned taxes money for that. And it was just a propaganda thing, understand? Like, we're going to send the immigrants another place.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they didn't do that. And the only person that gained from it was the Albanian government that received money from it.
Exactly.
And she didn't do anything for the workers. And you can see it from how the referendum went.
That's my next question, actually. I was going to ask you that right after we finish discussing that.
They didn't implement anything for the workers. Even the worst part was that, like this year, when the first paycheck people received this year, they were having like 120 euros, 200 euros less, because the government made a mistake in a law that they passed about calculating how much, the tax you have to remove from someone's paycheck. So people receive less money. And in Italy, we don't have minimum wage.
Interesting.
And the opposition have always tried to pass the minimum wage laws that the government have always made, like, was always against it, because they were like, we don't need a minimum wage. We're okay like this. And I'm not going to go further about the referendum issue because we're going to discuss it after. They didn't do much even for the pensioners. They didn't do much for the public workers' payments. The government didn't do much, actually. They just stayed like in a gray zone of not doing much, but not even doing nothing. They were just like taking old bonuses and changing the names or reducing them. And the only thing they were always doing is like, oh, the other party did that. Because they only talk by mouth, but no action, in my opinion. This is my opinion.
Yeah, and your opinion is very welcome. So you mentioned the referendums, which I am very happy to discuss, because those referendums were, so for those that don't know what we're talking about, the referendums basically were to protect and extend workers' rights and to reduce the number of years it takes for residents to gain citizenship. And these referendums were voted on by citizens in Italy, and none of them passed, even though they would drastically improve the life of workers in Italy. So it really caught my attention. Something interesting about that is that there was a system used to make sure that people didn't vote, therefore not talking about it so much in the news, trying to put it at a time when people were on holidays at the beach. Like, I read a lot about it. So my question to you, again, having been on ground, what exactly happened that led to such a low turnout for the referendums, number one? Number two, why was Giorgia Meloni's government so interested in ensuring that those referendums did not pass, even though it would so drastically improve workers' rights in Italy?
Okay. The issue is that the referendum didn't pass because we didn't reach the quorum. Because for a referendum to pass, at least 50% of the population has to vote. And Giorgia Meloni's government being afraid that, the laws could have passed because, immigrants were going to vote and stuff like that. They made sure that we didn't reach the quorum. Why did I say they made sure? Because they made a mass campaign of disinformation.
Wow.
Where they were telling people, go to the beach, don't go and vote.
Oh my goodness.
There were influencers telling people, why should you vote? Just go and enjoy yourself. Why wasting a Sunday? And that was like one of the biggest things she made. And some people working in the government told people that they received emails telling them to don't go and vote. And you ask yourself, why simply not telling them to go and vote no? They didn't want people to just not vote no, because the moment someone goes and was like, okay, they told me to vote no, let me see why I have to vote no.
I see.
They will read it and they'll be like, oh, this is for the workers. It's not about the immigrants. But if you just tell them, don't go, there's no need for them to read why this one is yes and one is no. They just don't go. But the moment you reach the voting ballot and you see that, oh, this written word, what do they mean? And you read it a second, you'll be like, oh, why shouldn't I vote no to this? Let me vote yes. So to make sure that they were not going to lose, they prefer not to reach the quorum. That was the tactic. It's a good tactic. That was the tactic.
So this makes me worry, because for me, it signals two things. It shows how easy it is to take away rights from people right under their nose.
Okay, let me just say that Italy, in the last couple of 10, 15 years, they've been having an issue of people going to vote.
Okay.
Because people don't go to vote anymore as how they were doing before. So even when they have election, it's not going to be like the 50% of the population voting at the election. But at the election, you don't have a quorum to respect. The issue is that Italian people feel like, why should I vote? Because at the end of the day, nothing's going to be done for me. But at the same time, you not voting is the cause of why there's nothing being done for you. But a lot of people don't reach. They don't understand that.
Was it systematically put in place in such a way that people would think that way?
Yes, because usually when they have elections in Italy, they have like adverts around the city, they have adverts in the television explaining to you every single part of what you have to vote. But this time they didn't. They didn't do that.
Because they didn't want people to vote for the referendum.
Because when you display the thing, it's gonna come out contract work. So some people be like, let me check, let me read. So they made sure that no one understood exactly what was people supposed to be voting about. And they displayed only the immigrant part. They were like, oh, they were going to vote for the reduction from 10 years of residency to 5 years of residency. So more immigrants are going to receive their citizenship easier. So in the people's mind, that was like, oh, we're going to vote for more immigrants. Oh, let me not vote. Some of them probably didn't understand that the ballot was separated. Like one law could have passed and one could have not passed. So you could have gone and vote and just vote for the workers' part if you were a racist person and you didn't want the immigrants to have less years. But they didn't explain to them that.
Of course they didn't.
They made sure to not explain to them that so that they will not vote, so they will not reach the quorum. So even if the people vote for the majority, yes, not reaching the quorum made sure that the laws didn't pass, that the referendum didn't pass.
So when you look at what happened with the referendum, and you also look at what happened with the bill that passed, do you feel that there's a backslide in democracy in Italy? Is democracy being tampered with right now?
We are in 2025, where unfortunately people's minds are easily played by fake news on social network that manipulates people's minds. And that way of easy manipulation, I think that is the reason why democracy is a little bit failing now and why people are more populist, because, you can just feed people a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, democracy is that everybody can vote. But everybody's supposed to be voting on what is real and not on fake news being given to them. That's the issue. It's not like a decline of democracy. It's a decline of people understanding what they're voting for. What are their rights? Why they're voting? Because they have been fed a lot of news about like your vote don't count. At the end, nothing is going to change. So at the end, people are not going. People are not fighting for their rights. At the end of the day, it's not loss of democracy, it's just the people that have changed.
The electorate. The electorate has changed, and that is leading to a lot of different things. We just mentioned two things that happened right under people's noses. Like, if people are not careful, they'll be busy eating croissants and drinking their cappuccinos, and their rights will be taken right from underneath their nose. Like, I've been saying this for a while. Like, people need to pay attention. You don't have to believe just one thing. You don't have to believe everything that you hear, but you owe it to yourself to seek information and make decisions based on information. The information is out there. It's available for you. You don't have to listen to only one news outlet.
Yes, but
yeah,
a little bit like the MAGA way of thinking and the right-wing way of thinking is that if the president of my party say A, it must be A. And I'm not going to ask myself, why is A? That's the issue. They don't think about why am I doing that? And that is the reason why what I told you happened in the parliament, that they voted for a law that it was against, the principles of their party, because someone told them to vote yes, and mistakenly they voted yes. So these people didn't even read.
They didn't read the what they were voting for.
No. And they had the courage to be like, oh my God, I think there is a mistake. We didn't know that this was the law we have to vote for. To make it understand, because people don't care about informing themselves about what they have to vote for anymore.
Yeah.
They just vote by, okay, my party is voting for that, I vote like that. Not why is my party voting for that? Is that good for me? Like maybe you're a right wing, but you're a worker and you're like, no, this thing is for me, this part of the working thing. So I should vote yes because it's for me, understand? But they don't think like that. It's like, okay, the party said I have to vote yes, I will vote yes. Everybody's acting like a sheep, as if they don't have a mind on their own. They just vote for what the party tell them to vote blindly. That is the issue.
That's scary. How do you think that?
Unfortunately.
How do you think that the international community should view this?
International community already view the fact that Italy is going on the government is going on a right wing. But the issue is that, yes, the government is going right winged, but not the population. And that is be given by the fact that the population don't vote. So what is at the government is not always a representative of the mind of the majority of the population. Because the majority don't vote. Or for example, if you're a worker that work in another city, you can't vote in that city. You must go back to where you come from your own city. But if you cannot go because of work issues, you're not going to vote. At times, us students cannot vote outside from our cities. Even if we live, as a university, we live in another city, we must go back home to vote. So if you can't, you don't go. And that is one of the main reasons why the left wing loses a lot of votes. That is the reason. And you can see that the population don't think like that, because when you go and see the vote coming from outside Italy, from the citizens outside Italy, they vote for left more than right.
For me, it's not even so much about who votes for which party, left or right, because everybody has their opinion, everybody has their views, and everybody's opinion is welcome. I think it's just a matter of
Yes, but left-winger, majority of students
so what
and
is
intellectuals.
what's causing the apathy then? So if you have a large number of people, students in Italy, that you're saying belong to a certain party, what is making them not come out to vote?
Because they make it impossible for us to vote.
But when you say impossible, don't we as individuals hold some responsibility? Sometimes
like, for example,
yeah.
As a student, for me to go back, like they made sure that we couldn't, like they gave people only few days. And like when I asked my city if I could vote in Naples, they refused to read my email. And I sent an official email, a legal email, in April for the vote being in June, and they didn't open it. And so I didn't receive my papers to vote. And my city is a right-wing city.
So for those who may not understand what you're explaining, most students, most young people in Italy that are in college, they are going to university in a city that they're not necessarily residents in. So someone could be living in Venice but schooling in Rome. And from what you explained, you wouldn't be allowed to vote in Rome. You would have to go back to your city to vote. And if you try to make an application, like in your case where you try to apply to Naples to be able to vote in Naples, they did not reply to you on time for you to be able to vote. So that's one of the ways that people end up not voting. I understand.
Yeah.
That's a
And
that's a crazy strategy.
they didn't want to even give us this opportunity. They were forced to give the opportunity to vote outside. They were forced because they didn't want to give it. Because people have been asking for it since February and they refused. And at the end, they decided in April until the last, they gave you a month to send the applications. And a lot of people didn't receive the result. So they couldn't vote. And then they didn't make it up, they didn't make it possible for workers that live outside of their residence to do that too. Like maybe you're from Venice and you work in Sicily. They did like because I'm putting a huge example as if like you're working in Ohio, but you're from Washington D.C. and they don't give you the opportunity to vote in Ohio in that moment for the national team, not for the regional team. And what can you do? Someone may say, "Oh, why didn't he just take a flight or a train?" It's expensive.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And it's not a public holiday, so you have to work. So at times they won't give you day off at work, so you cannot go and leave your job and go and vote. So the left wing loses a lot of votes because of this. Because they don't make it easy for students to vote outside of their places, and even for foreign people working in places that are not their residence, they don't make it easy for them. But the people that vote for right wings, most of them are old people or people with companies. So they don't live outside of their residence, they live in their cities. And that is why they vote easier.
Yeah, and something that I want to emphasize here, because we have viewers that vote different parties. A lot of my viewers, some of them vote left, some of them vote right, and here everybody's welcome. So really, this is not about, condemning voting for one side against the other, but it's more about the right to protest is a fundamental right to every citizen. As long as you say it's a democracy, then protesting is a part of that. And so regardless of what party you belong to, whether you're left-leaning or right-leaning, it should bother you that it is being tampered with. And that's really the goal of this episode, to really have people pay attention.
The issue is that right wing never protests usually.
I see. Okay.
Because it's not part of their political culture of protesting.
In Italy?
Yes.
I see.
It has always been more of a left side thing, the protest, than being a right wing thing. Yes.
I see.
Because it's not in the mind, like they are trying to say, what the government is trying to do is like, oh, I'm not banning you from protesting, is that you have to ask for permission to make a protest. And that is the issue. They are trying to put, like, how can I say, vincoli. They're trying to give, like, to make sure that you cannot protest freely, that you have to protest after permission, so they can decide to say, oh, I don't want you to protest on that. So they pick and choose. So it's not, left wings are never going to leave that to happen. They're still going to protest. And what they're trying to do is, to scare them. That is why they say they want to make it illegal to protest in a certain way.
Yeah, I definitely will continue to pay attention to what is going on with this bill and with other things as well. So it has my attention. I wanted to bring it to more people's attention because I think a lot of people should really be paying attention to this. And I'm really, really grateful that you came on here today to talk about this. You're not a stranger here. Please come back. So many more things are going to come up. And every time we have questions about what's going on in Italy, we'll always ask for you to come here. So thank you so much for coming in today to discuss
thank you for having me.
To our viewers today, my question to you is, What would you do if your right to protest was tampered with? I want to hear your opinion. Please go to the comment section. Tell us what you think. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and have a blessed day.